Okay, and there we go. So starting off with this tutorial area, there's not a lot of exciting things. It's just kind of teaching you the basics of gameplay and how you get through like some of the control schemes. Because there's a New Game Plus run, we'll be carrying over all of the experience and items that we've got. This particular file I've been working on has a ton of accessories just sitting around. I'll probably clean that up so that I just have the items that are going to be relevant to the playthrough. In between each of these little tutorials sections, you get to fight out a group of slimes coming out from the chutes over the top, and it's out of bounds up at the top there, so you can't like jump in there and kill them really quickly. You just have to wait for a couple of them to spawn out. Most of those multi-hit combos you rarely see in the speedrun because it's more effective to use your magic attacks, things like Cold Vision or Blizzard Blast. Now we are missing out on a lot of Helix's fabulous puns. You can read them in the dialogue. The Japanese voices, it's played a little bit more straight for the character. Like, the voice is slightly less annoying, although it's still really high-pitched and squeaky. Slooper Duper Fighting Machine is one of my favorite lines of the game. He does say Slooper Duper a little bit later on, like I think in the ending sequence with Shadroth. Get a very slight time boost by cleanly jumping over those boxes instead of landing on the top. There's a kind of a recovery animation whenever you fall off a ledge, even if it's like a short distance. You'll sometimes even see it like going downstairs if you catch them wrong. Blocking we'll actually only see a couple of times. It's more useful like when you're actually seriously going after like the late game super bosses and things like that. For a lot of the game I actually don't need to block, which saves me some time in terms of the animations. Just up there is a small medal. You can go and grab it. Tutorial playthrough. I actually have tons and tons of small medals. Once you start getting through these flying starts, you get about like 100 small medals every time through, just from all the achievements that you get. And I think overall you need something like 450, 500 small medals to purchase all of the items. And after that you could just like buy alchemy accessories and things like that, but it's a lot less of a valuable commodity at that point. Alright, tutorial down, we have our next map sequence here, which is going to be our first real Kill All Monsters quest. There's basically two types of maps that you'll see throughout the game. Kill All Monsters, as it kind of implies, you just go and destroy everything. There's also maps which are more protection oriented. So like the next one's going to be a quest that we have to protect Helix while also cleaning up the monsters. And they kind of alternate back and forth. It's not a strict alternation, but maybe about half of each type.
読み通り波状攻撃を仕掛ってきたか。よし、俺の作戦通りに。
とりあえずなんとかなったわね。
So here we come up with our Protect Helix quest, and the protection quests, I used to not really like them because it's distracting you from the main objective, like just beating on things and having fun, but after a while I got used to them, and I started kind of seeing, you know, why do you need those in this type of game? It's so that you can't be like really defensive and like chip away at the monsters. You have to actually go back and forth between your Guardian objective and actually clearing things out. And the map speed will be very different depending on how aggressively you go for killing monsters. That'll be more apparent once we get the monster gates and the spawn points. Basically like trigger-based maps. You can make them advance faster or slower depending on how you approach them. Stop beating on my slime there. And for this map, there's a bunch of monsters that are standing out of bounds initially. You can see them over on the other side of that red line. And I try to encourage my people not to crowd that, because that'll discourage the monsters from walking across. They're invulnerable until they actually come into the playfield. So it looks like, you know, you could shoot them like across the barrier, but it like completely stops your attacks. 4 or 5 more to go. Let's see if we can get them in here. Really wish we had a taunt command. Once we get Yangus, you can use his whistle as a taunt, but we don't have anything at the beginning. Looks like they're all across. There we go. If you crowd up against there and they hang back, it actually is like a minute slower. I was really surprised. Like initially, I was just kind of ramming directly into the barrier line and trying to slash them as soon as they went across, but found out it's actually better to be more conservative and hang back, and that'll be a quicker way of finishing them out. Alright, now we get our first boss, Green Dragon. We'll see him a couple times throughout the speedrun. Right here he's kind of used as a filler boss and to teach us about tension as well. New Game Plus, we can absolutely wreck a lot of the early game bosses just because we have so much in terms of stats and equipment that you're not expected to have. You'll catch up over the course of the game. Like by the end of it, you know, you're doing a little bit more of a reasonably expected value. And the DLC super bosses, even at level 99, some of them are pretty challenging. This particular map doesn't actually end until Doric teaches about tension. So it's like a minute or so where these gates will continuously spawn in. Killing monsters doesn't make a difference, I just do it so that I have a way to pass the time while he goes through all of his speeches. And after this map, all of the monster gates typically are associated with some type of mini-boss. I call it Gate Guardian. If you kill him, usually indicated by a black or purple sparkly U, then it'll close the gates. These ones don't have any way of closing them early, you just have to wait for the cutscene to play. There's Doric's little speech. Tension is going to be really important throughout the game. When you're in tension, it's not like a super high damage increase, but it is a invulnerability period where you can tank the bosses directly head on. You also end each tension with these high tension finisher moves. Oops. There we go. It's probably a little bit more accurate. And the high tension moves get more powerful over time. There's quests that you can do. We'll do 2 of the upgrades just because they're mandatory to finish the game. And that's like a plot thing, not that you need to have the extra damage or anything like that. But there's a 3rd one that we don't do in the speedrun. and each of those basically doubles the power of that finisher move. Alright, so now we finally have control in town here. This is where our first little shopping destination. Most of the time we spend aboard our flying battleship, so this is kind of like a temporary accommodation. We can now start equipping items. Okay, I want you to have a meteorite bracer +3. Should have a socket locket. And a dog of color. And this is what I really just need to clean up once we'll use our alternate costumes. Once I'm really happy with all of my accessories in there, I'm just going to sell off all of the items and equipment I don't need to make the menuing faster. But right now I need a lot of copies of those for alchemy crafting. Once you build the base version, like the meteorite bracer +3, that's really just me melding 3 additional meteorite bracers onto it. And each time you do a meld, you can get some bonus stats. In my case, what I've done with this meteorite bracer is you initially have +4% running speed on it, and one of the meld options is an additional +3%, so I can put 3 of those +3% that have a +13% increase in my run speed. Come on. Gate Guardian should be spawning in right around here. Next one's going to be off in the east by this little abandoned church, and if we can do it fast enough, it'll prevent a golem from spawning. He's the real trigger for ending the map, but if you kill the Gate Guardian before he comes out, it counts. Ah, too fast. That one gave me almost no time for the golem spawn. That's like maybe 6 or 7 seconds we lose. There's lots of those small time savers throughout the run just based on some of the map triggers. And I don't fret about them too much just because there's a lot of randomness for how quickly they're going to fire off. Now after the map finishes, you see me getting all those items, the alchemy drops that the monsters make. Any ones that are left around when the map is over, you just automatically pick up, so you don't have to run around at the last minute grabbing them. I like that feature. I wish that it was just like, once you kill the monsters, it automatically picked them up instead of having to do them during the map as well. Because then you can get some really efficient grinding, just go and blast things over and over again. As it is, you kind of have to do grinding where you do a lot of attacking, wait for the drops to appear, go clean them up, and then repeat. Ailey here is going to be another one of the new characters that are joining for this game. She is really a character that is oriented around the special weapons in this game. We get a tutorial for those at the end of the stage. She also has one of the interesting support abilities, which is clearing off status effects. For a speedrun, you don't really run into status effects too often. For some of the bosses, though, like having the ability to clear off stop spell or freeze or other things that would prevent you from attacking are kind of a useful ability. Unfortunately, I don't have enough room for her in my party. Like, there's a lot of good characters in the sense they've got like 1 or 2 interesting things, but with the limit of 4 characters in your party, you have to kind of pick and choose which one you want to emphasize the most.
一緒にいらっしゃい。使い方を教えてあげる。
As soon as she finishes realizing that I have already been at the spellcaster for 20 seconds, we'll be able to use this and clear off the stage. There's no way back there. The red lines on the map are very solid walls, so you have to use the spellcaster to kill this group in the back.
この町にある不思議なもの
And it's slightly faster if you do kill the monsters with the spellcaster. They will automatically run away after your third shot if you don't kill them all. But it's like another one of those, 5 or 6 second differences just for the way the cutscenes play out.
要は勝てばいいのよ。勝てばね。 Now the plot at this point is that Isla is this eccentric inventor at this research institute, and she has a bunch of devices around town here. And all we know right now is that we need to protect them. It turns out these are going to be what powers our flying battleship, so definitely worthwhile to go and get these.
魔物の心をつかめる道具とはなんと素晴らしき発明じゃ。
I'm not sure why it teleports you around on the map like this. Like, you're over on the right-hand side for the first part, and then it brings you back over to the left-hand side. Doesn't seem to have like a good reason for it in terms of the plot point.
早くコツをつかむためにね。
So I kind of chalked it up to being one of the early tutorial sections. Once you get to the actual real combat maps, it tends to be a little bit more smooth for each of the little time sequences that are involved.
Yosh! 片付いたっと。
And one thing that is pretty atypical for a lot of Square Enix games is you can skip all the cutscenes. It saves a lot of time over the course of the run because there's otherwise a few hours of those little FMV sequences that'll appear between events. A little bit of mechanic that they have introduced here, which is those monster coin drops. I want to dodge them early on because you'll get a little jingle and introduction to each monster type that you get for the first time. And all these monsters at the early game, I'm not going to ever use in actual combat, so it saves me like 4 seconds per type of monster if I can avoid them. But sometimes they'll drop a coin like directly in your face and it's just completely impossible to dodge. Okay, let's get up to the north here for our next gate spawning in. Come on. There we go. The last one should be to the west. Just knowing the sequence like this can save you a lot of time over the course of a speedrun because you can do a lot of your running around while the characters are talking or otherwise giving you time to get in position for these. I'll probably be a little bit farther back. another one where if I'm a little bit faster killing the Mallkeeper, I can avoid that Golem spawning in.
勝負あったわね。とりあえずなんとかなったわね。
Alright, so the battle with Gigantus, and this guy is probably my favorite boss just because he's so smiling and happy, like he's having such a good time. And they kind of set it up as a little bit of a ruse, so it looks like, you know, it's just a standard Kill All Monsters map. And once they introduce Alina and Kirill, then they'll actually reveal, hey, there's a boss that you actually need to fight here. Now, if I wasn't doing a Aurora run, this is one map where it actually might be advantageous to have Lucius here. He's got more of a single target damage dealing weapon, and we don't need to actually freeze Gigantus. So it's probably a little bit better to have him as your lead character for this particular battle. But for almost everything else, I like to have Aurora instead. Start here, I'm just trying to build up my tension as quickly as possible by getting these combos, and you can see the hit gauge building up. Your tension increases faster the higher your hit gauge is. And this is faster than using the standard way to build up tension, which is just holding down the circle button. There we go. And once I'm in tension, I can just rake down his body like this. Very, very fast way to take him down. And that was actually much, much faster than normal. I'm not sure if it was because of that funny position that I was in. You can see that there was a really strange camera angle where I was kind of stuck in the camera inside of Gigantus' body. So it was probably giving me a little bit of a better position for doing the double jumps down him. Alright, now we have our flying battleship, and the first thing I'm going to do is go over to Luis's bar. Luis's bar is a reference to Dragon Warrior 3, where you can use it to swap out your party members. It's got pretty much the same function here. And I'm going to just kick everybody else out of my party, because all I need is Aurora right now, and I've actually got an accessory that's going to increase my damage the fewer people that are in my party. Alright, we still need to talk to Isla and to Lucius. Where have you gone, Lucius? There we go. I recently switched from doing Lucius in the last run to Aurora in this run, so their positions got moved around from where I was expecting. And all those little conversations where it was just a series of required quest triggers to advance. I think they pretty much just spread them around the battleship so that you would have to talk to everyone and see what all the locations were.
いざ突撃。ダイヤモンドベスト。みんな動きにくそうだね。僕なんともないのに。
Now there's an accessory you get that will neutralize this quicksand, but you can move fast enough just by jumping through it.
その上でも平気なのね。
読めたぞ。みんなよく聞いてくれ。
And as you'll see, I'll try to avoid as much menuing as possible just so that I don't spend time in town.
そっか。動きづらいのは魔物も同じってことね。
So a lot of places where, you know, it would be helpful to have an accessory for like this one map only, it's not worth the 15 seconds to swap it in and out.
流砂の動きに注意して戦うのだぞ。そろそろ町の外の魔物も打ち止めか。最後まで強力に戦い抜くのじゃ。
流砂の上を普通に歩ける靴があれば作戦の幅が広がるんだから。
確かにそんな発明品があったら便利ね。時間ができたら考えてみよ
That chest right there is usually the first trap chest you'll come across. This game does have a series of mimic type monsters. They get more and more powerful as you go throughout the game. Like initially they're just gonna like bite you and do a little bit of damage. Later ones are like very heavily into the high-end instant death spells. So there's kind of always a risk when you're in the midst of combat to go off and grab those chests.
負けてらんないわ。
Now you kind of are tempted to because they'll have things like small metals and sometimes good alchemy ingredients in them. But for a speedrun you don't need any of the chests at all. This is the first of the boss refights. You'll get one of these optional maps every time that you beat a boss. And there's two versions of the bosses. The first version is the standard one that you fought in the storyline, and then after you complete the storyline, it'll unlock a upgraded version of each of those bosses. That's where you get most of the character's super weapons.
片っ端からやっつけていくわよ。ダイヤモンドベスト。
かなりの数の魔物ですね。姫様、ご無理はなされませんよ。
大丈夫よクリフト。このくらい楽勝楽勝。
And you'll notice a few discrepancies in terms of character naming just from the Japanese and English translations being a little bit different. Like in Dragon Warrior 4, Yuna's partner there was originally called Christo, and in Japanese it's Clifto. They renamed him to Kirill for the retranslations when they went to like the Nintendo DS version. And so they kept all of those name changes in this playthrough as well.
美術大会に出ていた頃を思い出すと。
武術大会いい響きね。私リルクさんとも勝負してみたいわ。ダイヤモンドベスト。氷結切り。ダイヤモンドベスト。これで最後ね。氷結切り。ダイヤモンドベスト。
Alright, when you kill most of the big monsters, the rest will tend to run away. And there are different maps in terms of the requirements. Some require that you actually clear off every single thing on there. Some of them have a certain size of monster that you go and clear off, and others just have, once you complete the objective trigger, it'll wipe out the rest of the map, regardless of whether you've got like super big monsters or not.
Come up here is another one of the protection quests, and this is introducing the world tree for the first time. We'll see the world tree play a very prominent role throughout the story. It's one of those recurring things from Dragon Warrior games that have been in since Dragon Warrior 2. One of the things I like about this game in particular is that although it is a type of Dynasty Warriors style game, they went all out making it feel like it fit into the Dragon Quest universe really well. Like, art designs are perfect. A lot of the storyline picked up on exactly the types of themes and ideas that you kind of see in a lot of the Dragon Quest games. So like, they did a very, very good job of the collaboration.
心配性ね。このくらい全然へっちゃらよ。かっこいい。私も負けてらんないわ。よーし、ガンガン行くわよ。
I've actually done this map backwards for how I normally do it. Usually I come up the left-hand side. We'll see if that makes a difference.
ダイヤモンドダスト。よーし、ここまで来たらもう一息ね。
ああ、最後まで気を抜かずに行くぞ。
ダイヤモンドダスト。ダイヤモンドダスト。
Okay, looks like it's still let me get my clear out there. The Great Saber Cat is supposed to spawn in the northeast corner. I think if you've already killed the Maw Keeper, it doesn't actually spawn correctly. And the Saber Cat seems to be what triggers the monsters running away.
片付いたっと。
Alright, we have a next boss here, and this is probably one of the gatekeeper bosses for a casual playthrough. Like, you'll be cruising through here. Gigantus might give you a little trouble, but this is the one where I see a lot of people just kind of stumble in their first playthrough because it's a boss which actually has 3 different elements to it. So you kind of have to juggle your attacks and spread around your damage to make sure that you're going to be doing this as efficiently as possible. Actually froze me.
そんな必要はない。キラーマシン3体だ。それぞれの特徴を見極めれば。
Now, one thing you'll see is the last one is going to go berserk once you have taken out its 2 partners, so I try to take out the first one, concentrated attacks, and then split up the last 2 so that I don't have as much damage left in the berserk sequence.
済ませてくれるぜ。
Come on.
追い詰められてやけになった。
I probably could have gone a little bit faster. I'm still getting time on the splits because I have gotten the upgraded meteorite armband, which I didn't do in the last playthrough. So that makes my running speed through a lot of the maps faster. It doesn't really help out in the bosses at all. And we now have Terry in our party. He's going to be an absolute beast. Alright, we're going to give him the other meteorite armband. Prayer ring and a raging ruby. We'll get the good raging ruby. Okay, and I need to talk to Isla back there. Okay,
「
Now Terry's got a very different skill set, even though he's a swordsman like our main characters. Terry is an extremely effective DPS, so damage per second dealer. I'll use him on a lot of the bosses from this point on.
いざ突撃。ダイヤモンドダスト。
Now, outside of like single target DPS, he is kind of weak in most other respects, so he's not good at clearing out wide areas, he's not good at special abilities. He does have a lightning move for dealing with robots, but other than that, you know, he doesn't have any kind of like a lockdown. Let's see if we get these jerk birds out of here.
負けないわ絶対あと一息ってとこね
Flying monsters are really annoying in this game because they're very evasive. Just like naturally because they're difficult to see on the camera, but also in terms of gameplay they'll typically have a very high evade score. So unlike most monsters, which you're going to hit every single time, birds are like 50% just dodging your attacks straight up. Now, in terms of the damage, it'll be a little bit more efficient to add Terry into the party only once we get to the boss here. However, when you get a new character, if you've got open slots, they'll drop right into your party initially, so this saves me a trip over to the bar. Those knights are normally extremely annoying because they have a shield and can block your attacks. What I've done for Aurora is given her accessory which allows you to pierce through that blocking ability. Doesn't work for flyers, so their evade is not affected by it, but anybody that has like an explicit shield, you can use the dog collar to overcome that. Not quite fast enough to catch the Hunter Mech before he spawned, but we should be able to knock him down before he gets over the edge of that cliff. If you don't know the sequence to do those gates in, you'll be on the wrong side of that really big jump, and still have to go all the way around for when the mech spawns, or wait for him to jump down on his own. The reason you want to be down here is because this is where the actual exit for the map is. So unlike most maps which finish when you kill the monsters, this one is based on running to a certain objective square. And we're going to take a little bit of a chat with Doric here, and then we will join Jessica and Yangus. Now on the previous routes through here, this is where I would take Jessica into the party and have her throughout the rest of the game. Jessica's really nice ability is the Hustle Dance, which is an all-party heal. For this playthrough, I'm actually going to skip Jessica and instead wait until we get to Bianca in there, and I'll take both of them as opposed to just Bianca.
ダイヤモンドダストダイヤモンドダスト
おお手伝ってくれるでゲスかありがてえでガス村のあちこちで魔物が暴れているでガスとっとと追っ払ってやりやしょう
ダイヤモンドダスト
村人の身の安全が第一じゃ魔物を倒し全ての家を守り抜くぞ
That little area at the bottom is often annoying because of all of these jerk birds flying around. It's very easy to miss one of them, and then you have to double back later on the map to go and catch up to it. Let's see if we got them all.
ダイヤモンドダスト
I think they're still fighting back there, so there probably is at least one Chimera that we missed. Yeah, there he is.
ねえねえさっきはありがとうヤンガスのおかげで助かっちゃった
困ってる奴がいたら助けるというあっしの仁義に従っただけでガス
Oh, good. Yeah, Chimera actually looped back up around, so our next set of spawns is going to be over in the east there, which is where they decided to wander up to.
斧の破壊力ってすごいのね私も使ってみようかしら
Oh no, there's more down there. One more jerk bird isn't evading us. That's what prevented the gates from opening up. There we go.
となるとあっしは
Now it looks clear.
野蛮な武器を使う野蛮なやつってことになるでゲスな。
いやいえ決してそんなことは。
ジェシカの方は大丈夫でガスかね。やっぱり一人じゃ心配でガス。勝手なことをして心配させるのもほどほどにしてほしいでガスよ。
Okay, one more.
ここで
See if we can nail them all with the high tension move.
逃がすら
Think we got everybody?
もう一
Oh, Hunter Mech's still alive.
最後まで気を抜い
There we
て
go.
いけねえでガス。
勝負あったわね
And normally you actually see two separate gates appear there. By using the high tension move to cut that off, it prevented another set of golems from spawning. Alright, boss time. This is another combo boss. There's a little bit of a gimmick where the boss troll is kind of a big HP battery, and the Star Chimera can recharge him with a lot of very highly directed healing. And I'm going to try to get the Chimera locked into healing, and that way he's not able to use his invincibility move. And it lets me basically skip one or two cycles of him flying around and doing his dive bomb attack. But it's kind of a tricky maneuver because you have to kill the boss troll while the Chimera is healing him.
了解だ。はやぶさ切り。
Okay, we got it. I see him in his little crouch animation.
はやぶさ切り。
あらバリスタ
Nope, he got out of it. That's too bad.
このスターキメラってやつは
So we could have saved the second one of those rounds if we had gotten him locked in healing. It's kind of a small thing, but it's like, just in terms of fit and finish, I'd love to get those little details in a run.
もっと楽しめる相手はいないのか。
probably kick Jessica and Yangus out. I'm kind of torn with the new route, which way to go. I can keep them in the party just as background damage dealing. But if I kick them out now, then Nera and Bianca are going to fall into place in the correct order.
ダイヤモンドダストダイヤモンドダスト
Either way, it's one tip to the bar. In the previous route where I wanted Jessica and Bianca, I have to kick them out at this point so that Jessica would be in the party, and then Bianca's actually the first slot, so that she would fall in next and Nera would not join.
氷結切りダイヤモンドダスト
Alright, Sabercat, let's take you down before I'm going on.
氷結切り
そろそろへばってきたんじゃないか。作戦に頼ってばかりじゃ戦えないぜ。
闇雲に戦うやつはすぐにへばる。いや、作戦があればそうはならないさ。
どんどん次の相手がやってくるわ。怒涛の攻めをしのぐって燃えるわね。分かったわ。
Probably save a minute over the course of the run if you can manage to avoid getting all those enemy drops. They're just RNG based, so you'll have a certain percentage of the time where it'll drop like a medical herb, a certain percentage it'll drop alchemy item, and a certain percentage will drop like a monster coin. Alright, let's go kick these two fine people out.
何をお望み？ごまた寄ってね。
And that'll actually boost Aurora's damage a little bit. And for this map, I want to have a little bit of extra damage on Aurora just because I need to get some of this really wide band attack going on so that I can clean up a lot of like the skeletons and small things that are going to spawn around. Okay, let's clean up the gatekeepers first, and then we'll use Terry to fight off the trolls. I think we only have to beat the big monsters once we do the gates. Come on, Gollum. As you can see there's very little vertical height detection for a lot of your attacks, so you can hit things without having to be worried about exactly lining up over like railings or banisters or things like that. And I'll take advantage of that for a couple spots during the run.
分かったわ。ダイヤモンドダスト。ダイヤモンドダスト。
There we go, finally they're running away.
とりあえずなんとかなったわね。
Now, in this next map, we're going to meet the dwarf girl that will be involved in a couple of sequences. You'll only see a few of them in the actual main quest, but she also appears in some of the side quests as well. This first one is just kind of a straight-up protection map where we get an introduction to Bianca and Nera, and then we'll have an escort mission where, kind of traditional Dragon Quest fashion, you go to every single wrong possible way, fighting monsters at every turn.
ダイヤモンドダスト。よし、町から魔物を追い払って族長さんたちを必ず見つけ出すわよ。ありがとうございます。本当に何とお礼を言ったらいいか。ダイヤモンドダスト。
よいよい、世界を治める王として当然のことじゃ。
それじゃこの辺りから始めよう。魔物を倒しながら人探しだ。
I'm going to try to loop around so that I'm at the northwest corner at the end of that. I believe that's where our gates are going to start in their spawn sequence once we kill all the regular monsters hanging out here.
ダイヤモンドダスト。
了解だ。はやぶさ切り、シンクロ切り。
分かったわ。片付ダイヤモンドダスト。なかなか見つからないわね。心配だと思うけど諦めちゃダメよ。はい。ダイヤモンドダスト。お二人はどうしてこんなにも親切にしてくださるんですか。実は私たちも結婚を控えるに。
Now, Bianca, one of the two characters that's talking during this sequence, would be tremendously useful for this map. She has an extremely good area of effect attack, that is pretty much very heavily abused throughout the second half of the run. Sadly, we do not get to use her until after this sequence, though.
そうですわね。でもその前にあなたの力になりたいのですわ。皆さん気をつけて。ダイヤモンドダスト。凍結切り。
Alright, there's the one in the northwest. We're going to use tension as a way to run more quickly. And this is just to get us to the south gate as fast as possible.
ダイヤモンドダスト。ダイヤモンドダスト。
After this Maw Keeper, we want to be on the west side.
それにしても二人とも随分落ち着いてるでゲスね。
See if we can hit the Golem here.
ギガスラッシュ。
足なんかこっちの世界に来た時はそりゃもうおっかなびっくりでかしたよ。
あら、私たちだって結構驚いてるのよ。でもそう見えないってことは多分
一度にすごいことが起こりすぎて考えが追いついてこないからですわ。
ダイヤモンドダスト。氷結切り。氷結切り。氷結切り。
There we go, third time with chime on it. And by killing the gatekeepers really quickly after they spawn, it prevents more monsters from coming in. So if you're fast at the beginning, it kind of has a cumulative effect.
ダイヤモンドダスト。氷結切り。ほれ。
Let's see if we lure the Hackosaurus backwards so we don't have to do a little bit out of way of the chasing yet. Hackosaurus is probably the first monster that has a stun effect. You'll see a lot more of that annoying ability throughout the rest of the run.
気配の正体はバトルレックスか。
By sneaking up on him, I can put him into freeze, and then he doesn't get a chance to do his roar. Normally he does that very early in his AI cycle. It's like very soon after he sees you, he'll run up, do a roaring shout, and that's what stuns everybody that's in front of him.
こんなところで負けてらんないわ。
Alright, time for our escort mission. This one's got a little bit of a trick at the end. There's a certain set of monsters at the very last section of the map that you have to beat in order for the map to clear. And it looks like you would normally have to go through like a lot of the big trolls and so on, but you can actually skip them. We'll see how sensitive the following radius for barrel is. Because I've got the upgraded meter armband on, I can actually significantly outpace a lot of the escorts for the quest. And they'll stop running if you get too far away from them. This is a case where you have to get far away because she's stopped by the monsters there. You'll kind of see me do like stutter stops or slowing down in a lot of these escort quests just to make sure that I don't get out of range. While she runs away, I'm staying here because we're about to be ambushed from behind. Now I'm saving up my tension here. I'm going to need it at the very end of the map. A lot of the characters have different patterns for their tension attacks. So like Aurora is going to be a big hemisphere around her, whereas Terry's like a linear attack. And for this particular map, I'm going to need to hit characters on either side, so only Aurora's tension is going to be able to hit it. If I had Jessica in the party, she's another hemisphere type attacker for her high tension move.
心配で倒れちゃう前に元の世界に戻らなくちゃね。
そういえばビアンカとフローラって
You can get a lot of these monsters just by shooting over the rail. However, if you can't get the ones to the back, it doesn't help you in terms of time to kill out the front ones because this is not a spawner.
幼馴染ってわけじゃないのよ。実は私たち数日前にお会いしたばかりなんですの。あら意外ね。息もぴったりだからてっきり長い付き合いかと思ったわ。そうなのです。私もビアンカさんとは初めて会った。
Not really much we can do during these enforced cutscenes. This is kind of just a timed element in the map.
ビアンカさんには素敵なお方がいらっしゃるの。ね。まあね。
And I'll definitely take these over enforced F&B cutscenes, so
I'm happy to save the several hours of watching movies for a couple of these spots where you're going to wait in the map for a few seconds. There's an example of me staying back from the Hackosaurus just to avoid getting stunned by his roar. If you're up close to that Bog Keeper, then the Hackosaurus is going to come in. His first AI move is pretty much going to be to do the roar. It's very hard to dodge, so it's better to kind of stick back and let them take an extra second or two to pop in. So the girl's going to go up to the middle. I'm going to stay down here at the bottom, which is where the next set of monsters are going to spawn in. Just have to make sure I'm far enough up that she is able to walk all the way to her trigger.
ここにはいないみたいです。他の場所を探しましょう。
Now those Maw Guardians, they'll very
なかなか見
very often drop an alchemy item, which is going to be like a gold nugget or nuglet, things that are just sold for cash. You don't have to worry about them dropping monster coins, which is nice.
あの二人がこの町で迷子になるってことはないんじゃない？お父様、いらっしゃいませんか？行くわよ。
Should be late enough. There we go. And these two Maw Keepers in the back are the only ones that you have to kill in this room.
あちこち歩くのも飽きてきたところ。
Normally you'd have to beat all the big things like those trolls, but
運動になるぜ。
this is kind of like a special exception on this map.
逃がすら とりあえずなんとかなったわね。
Alright, time for the boss of this section. The Granite Titan is, I guess, probably most famous from Dragon Warrior 3, where it's guarding the area around Zoma. You fight a bunch of these in a row. They've been used as kind of statuary type bosses in a lot of the Dragon Warrior games since. This particular one, the way the boss fight is set up is you're trying to protect the girl's father and husband, but if you do enough damage to the Titan, then basically he's locked in place. And so he never initiates the chase sequence.
気配を消して背後から襲いかかる。なかなか理にかなった作戦だ。
安心してる場合じゃないでしょう。族長さんたち逃げて。
So what you would normally see in like a casual playthrough is you do a little bit of damage, Titan gets bored of you, goes and runs after the dwarves, does damage to them, monsters spawn in, does damage to them, so you have to kind of go back and forth between protecting those two, keeping the monsters clear out of the area, and doing enough damage to the Titan to build aggro back up onto it. And now we have Nera and Bianca. Nera is going to be useful for buy kill. It's a buff in combat that increases your attack, and Bianca's just got an amazing area of effective attack. Okay, I'm going to replace your meteorite armband with the stimulating specs. Nera gets a butterfly bow, or I guess this Seraphic Scepter. Middle King Orb. Hey Gavin, welcome in. I'll be glad when all of these extra accessories are gone. Be much easier to navigate. Okay, you get the meteorite bracer I took off of Aurora, Dagger Collar, and Raging Ruby. There we go. Should all be set. And now we do our one side quest that's actually mandatory, which is high intensity training. You have to do this before a certain part of the main storyline where you get the second intensity training upgrade. And rather than check whether you've already had one and giving you a different result, they just say you have to do this quest. I put the stimulating glasses on Aurora, which is going to give her some initial tension. The way this quest works is you have to build up to max tension twice during it. The first time's got a 2-minute time limit. It's not a real big deal, but it's faster to use the specs to get your first 30%. Try to stay away from you so that you don't stun me. Just barely got it. It's a really big cone for his roar. Alright, this should be enough where we cleared it out and we can just do our tension builder. And that was actually a pretty good first half. Can take up to like a minute or so, and he'll tell you when you're halfway done so I can know where in his conversation to decide how fast it was.
よっしゃ、ここまでは合格だ。試しに必殺技を出してみな。これまでのやつより強力だろ。じゃあ早速実戦で試してみっか。こいつには必殺技以外ほぼ効かねえ。ちゃんと必殺技にはつけるんだぞ。
You guys are being really annoying behind me. There's normally not supposed to be monsters this close around, but because there are, they're interfering with some of my combos. Makes it a little bit slower to build up the tension. There we go. And this guy can only be killed with a high tension move. It looks like you can do damage to him. I haven't actually tried to take him all the way down like one point at a time, but since it's not technically time limited, I guess you could. It just wouldn't be good for a speedrun. And with that, our finisher moves are going to do a little bit more damage. It's roughly doubling each time that we do one of those upgrades. There's another quest which is very close to break even, which is the zoom quest. It takes like 3.5-4 minutes to do the main part of the quest. And it saves you some amount of travel around in later maps, but it takes time to get the zoom points unlocked, and I found that I can usually get around while waiting for enemy spawns to happen anyway. Okay, make sure I don't need to talk to you again. I talked to him beforehand. Okay, that count it. And now our debut for Bianca. She's going to be very heavily used throughout the second half of this run here. And you'll see why very quickly for a lot of these spread out monsters. And since it's an auto-targeting attack, it's also really good against flyers, which otherwise are very difficult for you to manually spot and aim at. Alright, I believe we go to the east side here.
怪獣といえばバンジージャンプよね。グリフト、後でやってみない？
姫様、ただでさえ怖いのに、そんな恐ろしいこと言わないでください。
わかったわ。大丈夫。私が一緒に飛んであげるわ。世界中のてっぺんからジャンプよ。サビラレチーム。
江戸寺も空からも一気に来たでげすね。
サビラレチーム。
うまいこと立ち回って乗り切りでガス。
祭壇はまだ先よ。ここで足止めを食うわけにはいかないわ。
The last one should be in the northwest. There we go. Sadly, Bykill does not last long enough that they can just like a manual cast and get through the rest of the map.
おそらくさらに上も攻め込まれておるじゃろうな。
Well, the voices for Dragon Quest Heroes is very different in terms of style between English and Japanese. And the Japanese voicing, they basically all are talking in standard pronunciation and language. In the English version, what they did was make very, very different regional accents and dialogues for every character group. So like, Lena and Kirill have this completely over-the-top Russian accent, and most of your main characters are British and so on, but it's all played very straight in the Japanese version. And one of the nice things about having Nara in the party as opposed to Jessica is that Bykill spell does cut off like one or two of these Rain of Pains that I have to do for a lot of the big monsters. So that's where I'm going to guess I can get some good time savings from with a route change. Makes the route more dangerous because I don't have the safety net of getting a heal. But I shouldn't need that for route, 99% of the game.
外からも魔物が来るのは厄介だないちいち相手をしていたら
Sword Bath Boon there likes to use his Frost Breath quite a bit. It's actually something that you first very annoyingly ran into in Dragon Warrior 2. Let's do it from the top. That'll let me get better access to the north gate after this.
私たちの世界にある不思議な木に似てる気がするわ。
Another spot where Bianca really excels is not having to deal with some of the platforming, where it uses cliffs or drops to prevent you from backtracking. So she can deal with some of the gatekeepers that spawn in annoying locations without having to take like any pause whatsoever. That whole section went really well. Very happy with how Nera does in terms of casting by kill. Still have to deal with the Dark Golem boss here, and he's got a little bit of a quirk. It's not possible to kill him straight out with damage. Instead, you have to use the knock him over the edge mechanic. Like, it's kind of introduced at the start of the world tree, but here's where it's really enforced. Well, Gavin, thanks for dropping by, and hope to see you again sometime. So this first part, you pretty much just want to do straight up damage. Terry's great at that. But after this, you have only 3 hits to knock him down, so you kind of want to lure him a little bit closer to the edge in his second form.
導き出される答えは一つ祭壇の間にすでに魔物が入り込んでいる
まずいわ祭壇が壊されたら大変よ分かったわ一刻も早く奴を倒さないと
この魔物一筋縄ではいかないようですね
みんな焦っちゃダメよ隙を見つけて
Kind of funny when you're so fast, it completely breaks the conversations. So like they're still talking about something that you've already completed. Okay, I want him to do his charge attack. Let's see where you go. Over here would be nice.
こいつ攻撃が効いてないでですか随分とタフなやつでかす
聞いてないってことはないんじゃないとにかく
You're in a bad spot here. Oh, you knocked him into it. Okay, let's see if we can get him off this side.
奴がいるんだぞ今がチャンスだ
Ah, ooh, he stumbled off the edge. So that's a little bit of a luck-based fight depending on what his AI wants to do. That was really, really close. Otherwise, he would have gotten back up and I would have had to have reset him for a second pass. So somewhat somber moment in the game. You don't see the storyline because I'm skipping through the cutscenes really quickly, but whatever character you did not pick at the beginning, since I picked Aurora, that would be Lucius, gets basically, from your perspective, taken away and killed. And you kind of have to do a little bit of a recovery quest to get them back. So there's all kinds of really cool mechanics that they introduced throughout here. This is the teleport pad one.
狙いは女神
And they tend to only use them in a couple maps, which is a little bit disappointing. Like, they do some very interesting things with the map design as a result. I guess it's a positive in the sense that you get a lot more variety that way. But some of them I want to like see used more often, just because they're kind of a cool way to design things so they're not like the typical, walk from this side to the other side.
サビダ打ちサビダ打ちサンダーボルトサビダ打ち
Terry would be able to kill these Hackasaurs a little bit faster, but what I'm doing is basically getting them stunned before they can do their roar. If I ran up to them directly with Terry,
倒せたみたい
not having to switch between characters, then I would potentially get stunned in there. And so it's better to stick back with Bianca.
サビダ打ちサンダーボルトサビダ打ちサビダ打ちサビダ打ちわかっ
侵入者を防ぐための罠か。なんならんわい。
Here's another mechanic that's used really rarely, which is these environmental traps.
厄介な相
You
手
see them here and then in like the boss of this section
だ
as
が
well.
何としても倒して先に進まねば。
サビダ打ちサビダ打ちサビダ打ち
Come on back through. There we go.
サビダ打ちよーし全部やっつけたわね先に進みましょう
Alright, looks like we got everybody. And pretty much unavoidable drops of monster medallions all over the place there. This is an intro sequence you normally get in like the second or third map of the game where it teaches you how to use them, but we've managed to avoid most of them up to this point.
大切な人のために負けてられないわね
This next map's got one of my favorite background themes from Dragon Warrior games. It was first introduced in Dragon Warrior 2. We hear it often in the towers, especially I remember listening to this song for like hours while trying to figure out where the crests were hidden for that game.
私分かったわきっと力になってみせるわ わかりましたわ
床が動きました
This is kind of an interesting map. It's an elevator auto-scroller. So as you're going up the floors, it'll open up and monsters are going to come out and they're coming through each of these little barriers here. And you can't really make the map faster, so it's like those auto-scrolling elevators in beat-em-up games where it goes up a little bit, wait for all the monsters to come out, you beat them up, and then elevator scrolls a little bit more. It's just like a really weird meme that shows up in that series of games, and it appears here.
止まったみたいですわ最上階に着いたのでしょうか
Probably the only time we're going to be able to use Nara directly.
動く床に乗ってるだけなんて退屈だものちょうどいい
She's actually got a really interesting attack with these kind of fixed fields that she can drop on the battlefield. And she has 2 of them that she can put down in different places. If you recast it, it'll delete the first one. But it's like a continuously swirling wall of blades that you can drop in. Overall, though, she's probably one of the harder characters to use, which is why I leave her mostly in support to do the by-kill casts. Doing direct control with Nera is, possible for a lot of short-range AoEs, but just really difficult to use her effectively. Okay, that should take care of the monsters over there. And unlike the early map where you didn't want to crowd the doors, here if you're crowding the doors, it'll just cut the monsters in half and they will despawn. I kind of have to keep control of her the whole time, otherwise she will recast her little barrier blades where I don't want them.
こんなに上の方にまで魔物が入ってきてるなんて。急がなきゃ。
Okay, looks like we're about through the monsters where barrier is effective. Kind of fun though. My party's actually at a slightly different order than I'm used to. Typically I'll have Jessica in between Terry and Bianca, so I'm just having to get used to the new muscle memory for those two being right next to each other in the swap order. And this style map can actually be pretty difficult if you have, fast enough spawn of high-level monsters. There's a optional post-game quest after you beat the main boss, which takes you back here with just Aurora and Lucius. And if you're not really high level, that's actually a pretty difficult one, because they have no good healing ability, and just waves of high-level monsters coming in really test your ability to stay alive without having to use your heal stones up. I believe we've got one more floor to go. come back to that particular door last. That's the one where our exit is going to be to end the map. One trick you could do is get up really close to a big monster like this, and the other bolts that are going out to the other monsters actually will pierce through the first one, and so it'll do extra damage to him, and still hit the ones in the back. A little too dangerous to do against things like those Tyrannosaurs, though, just because they will probably put you into stun if you're standing that close to them. Alright, looks like we got everybody. Give Nara the end of level honors here. You get a different speech by each character depending on who's got the active control when the map actually ends. And I haven't timed out which ones are shortest. There's probably like an ideal character that has like the fewest words in their little speech.
クリフト、ちょっと静かにして。やっぱり魔物の気配がしないわ。
どうやらここが終点みたいね。みんなお疲れ様。
やっと着いたでガス。さあ早速外に出てみるでゲスよ。
We're doing pretty good for the King Leo fight. He's going to be another one of those gatekeeper bosses for casual play where it becomes a lot more of a challenging fight, just the number of different things that's thrown at you. You've got a boss that likes to really move around, very evasive, hard to kind of keep a lock on. You've got environmental traps, and you've also got monsters that will spawn in if you take too long. All of that while you're trying to actually guard a physical objective. Let's see if we can ride his initial charge. What I'm trying to do is keep myself being pushed along ahead of him so that when we actually land back down, Terry's in a good spot to do his cyclone attacks. There we go. I don't know if you can hear a really quiet ringing in the background. That is Nara's little bubble attack. It has a sound effect associated with it. It took me a really good amount of time before figuring out that's what was causing that little bit of background noise. Another conversation here with Doric and Yangus. This will take us up to the Sea Shrine. This is where Nara from Dragon Warrior 4 came into the world, and she's just been hanging out here, dancing away. I think we'll meet her in the second map for the sequence. And she's the last of the main characters you get. In the DLC, you actually added one more character, which is Sorrow from Dragon Warrior 4 as well. He was the main boss of that game. And in the remakes, it also made him a playable character for the DS version. Like a final bonus chapter.
フローラの言った通りだ。魔物がいる限り門は開かぬようだな。
じゃあ先に進むにはここにいる魔物を全部やっつければいいのね。それにもう一度門を開けてもらうには女神像も守らなくっちゃ。
Opening that gate just gives me a little bit of a better path to some of the monsters here. Pretty marginal improvement considering it does add like a couple of seconds of cutscenes. As you can see, Bianca really shines not having to run all the way around. These gates are cool from open and close. You can just shoot right through them around corners. Just waiting for the timed objective. Didn't know this was actually such a long trigger. There we go. There should be another one in the south here and then to the southwest. For this particular map, it doesn't make a big difference having the locations pre-mapped out because you can see how much time you have in between each of the gates. For the later ones, it can actually just help you get fewer spawns coming through there before you close up the gates. The last one should be in the south. And I used to do a lot more of these maps with Aurora. Once I got a better handle on where the spawns would happen and what order to do things in, it became more efficient to have Bianca and Terry do a lot of the general clearing. Aurora's got a very nice short-range AoE attack with her Blizzard Blast, but doesn't really compare to like the long range with Bianca if you are able to get in position in time to things. This was a ferociously complicated map if you're kind of struggling to just keep up with the monster kills, but if you're far enough ahead, then you can do some interesting things. Check out the small fry. Nope, have to do one more shot. 2 more shots, come on.
この世界にもカジノはあるのかしら？ 見たことないわ。ここにはないのかもね。
やっぱりないか。
わかりましたわ。
がっかり。
サビラレンチ。サビラレンチ。
This is also where it helps to have Bianca with the upgraded meteorite armband to give her a faster run speed. Just so that, as you can see, it's completely impossible to be in position for all of these ahead of time. There's still a lot of running that goes around during these.
どっちも美人でナイスバディって？そうね、なかなかいい勝負かも。
あら、私にはそれに加えて踊りがあるわ。どんな男も釘付けに
バイキルト、わかったわ。
I can tell I'm actually hitting him because I'm getting the MP boost from my critical hits. One of the skills I've got on Bianca is MP recovery. As you can see, she uses a lot of magic with her special moves, but the Raging Ruby I have equipped on her as well as on Terry does a reduction in damage in exchange for higher critical hit rates. So that allows me to basically fuel them with pretty much infinite shots throughout the course of the map without having to ever recharge. That was really fast. That was good. I like both having Nair in the party for buy kill as well as some of the better positioning on that map.
俺に負けはない。
From a character design perspective, you can actually go a lot of different directions. I've chosen to go in the direction of super high critical hit rate, which I think is the fastest way to clear a lot of the maps, since having to pierce through enemies' defense can take a while, especially for things that have like just gigantic amounts of absorb. So critical hits are a good way of doing that, and they also let you use your special attacks way more often.
そうじゃな。わしには数えきれんほどの宝があるの。この世界に住まうすべての民がわしのかけがえのない宝じゃ。
In addition to buy kill, I'm also getting a boost to offense and defense from her critical hits. Those are like really short boosts. You'll see them slash on for like a second or two. Buy kill will at least last a good chunky amount of time. And I think the two do stack together pretty well. The map's normally pretty frenetic with how much you have to run around chasing after things, and the design of it makes it difficult to figure out where to get to a lot of these mall keepers. This is why Bianca's just like so dominating here.
よしやってやろうじゃないの。
Let's see if we can hook Terry onto this Hell Gladiator as he runs by. And then Bianca will try to deal with the Maul Keeper in back. And one last set that should spawn in. I think being fast there is really good because it avoids having some arc defensive show up. Those guys just have a lot of HP. Very difficult for Bianca to take him down, whereas Terry could probably do it. The next character switch you to. And wow, by kill it just shoots with the statue. That guy's not as strong as the Granite Titan that we fought in the Dwarf Cave, but without by kill on it, usually is like 2 or 3 rounds of Terry Cyclone attack to take him down. And for the fun boss, this is another one of the challenging spots in casual play. You have to actually do these next 2 bosses in a row with just your main hero. So that's going to be Aurora for me. I'm going to see if I can keep them in stun lock. You can actually skip animation cycles if they are frozen at certain spots in terms of their damage cycle. Not the easiest thing to pull off because freezing is kind of not at all guaranteed for these. Okay, I need to get into tension before he unfreezes, which is probably not going to happen. Ooh, he froze him again. Got a chance. Nope, he jumped. Oh, that was close. If I'd gotten it all the way up there, I could have knocked him back down using my high tension finisher. And that would have prevented him from going into this little animation phase for a minute. Okay, let's see if we can knock him down and then take him out before he does a second jump. There we go. Now I saved the Timbrel of Tension for the second boss in here. I hope I get that. Okay, at least did not delete it. Alright, we should be able to keep him in stun lock the whole time, and that makes the fight really, really fast. Otherwise, he teleports around a lot. Wow, that was good. A lot of that gain was from better positioning during the Sea Shrine battles, but the boss fights went decently well. I could have saved another 30 to 45 seconds if I hadn't missed the skip on the Light Dragon. That's probably one of the harder ones to get. go ahead and put Isla in the party. It's actually required for this next section.
何をお望みかご用はないまた
So I lose my buy kill temporarily, but basically we're going to Isla's hometown, and so if you're not putting her in the party, then it'll block you from doing that next section. It's weird because it doesn't actually let you control her. She's just like a guest character running by the side. And over the course of this, I'll want to actually get tension up on all three of my characters so that we can very quickly deal with the last guy here. Otherwise, he is super annoying. It's a mage that likes to teleport all over the place.
後ろからも
身を潜めて俺たちを待っていたか。魔物ならなかなかうまい作戦だな。
無理やり突破するのは危険じゃな。落ち着いて全ての魔物を片付けるのだ。
片付いたみたいね。さあ、先を急ぎましょう。
Okay, let's see if we can keep Isla moving while also using our tension up.
分かったわ。
Actually, run around to the back side of this so that we don't have to deal with the monsters up on the platform.
また魔物。上からな。
That's because if you get up there, then Isla has some pathing troubles getting back down. After this part, she needs to go over to the little bit where you see the kind of a kama hook on the east.
やつら魔法で攻撃してくるわ。どこか高いところから反撃しましょう。サビライ打ち。
あちこちで魔物が待ち伏せしてるのね。里のみんなは大丈夫かしら。
Okay, about halfway through Bianca's tension. Terry has not started yet, and I think we're about halfway through Aurora's as well.
あら、道が塞がってるわ。昔
I
は
have about 3 more of these cutscene sequences where I have to build up my tension before we get to the final
戻って他の
Tactical Wizard at the end. I love that name, Tactical Wizard.
分かったわ。
なんと私たちが引き返すことを読んでいたとは。もう終わりか。
もう一つの道には沼があるの。できれば通りたくないんだけど。
Let's see if we're close enough to get Isla to continue moving. I think she's going to be able to see us on the other side of the hook and come around. If not, we have to go a little bit over to her side.
了解。
Good. Looks like it does not calculate the true path distance. It'll just do like the straight line.
ここからしばらくは沼地を進むわ。足を取られないよう気をつけてね。足元がぬかるんでて動きにくいわ。ここで魔物に襲われたらすっごく大変ね。
Now here I'm just trying to keep Isla active and continuing to move forward because this ambush, you have to go back anyway for getting progress through the swamp. It doesn't really help having good position.
Okay.
片付いたと。さあ、こんな泥だらけのところさっさとおさらばしましょう。
We're doing really good on tension. We should actually be done very early before the last sequence. Helps a little bit having the meteorite armbands on so that our characters can run faster than Isla, wait for her to catch up and use the tension in the meantime.
よそ者を里に入れないためにそういう掟があるの。
Like you just saw there where Terry got his hit points restored is because I've got an accessory on called the Prayer Ring. 50-50 chance for restoring either your HP or MP to full whenever you reach max tension. I'm kind of using it as a crutch given that I don't have a healer, but I'm not sure if I actually need it. It'd be really cool to get rid of that and maybe have 2 Raging Rubies on or something. Anybody? Nope, you're all frozen. Guess we'll get Terry when he comes out of it.
当選のは多分やつで最後でガスよ。やっつければきっと里に入れるでガス。
It's a really good shot, and the freezing breath got all 3 of us.
片付いたっと。
片付いたようじゃな。よーし、前進じゃ。
この先に広場があります。そこを抜ければ里はすぐそこですわ。
As soon as I'm going through here, I'm going to hit my tension, and we're going to try to hit the tactical wizard. He'll be staying in the middle of that clearing. And I want to get him with both Terry and Bianca's tension. Oh, Isla, come on. I hope this doesn't make Terry's tension run out. We're still good. That guy, the tactical wizard in the middle, he's the one that will cause all of the gates around to spawn and despawn. And he likes to teleport and get lost in this gigantic mess of monsters. So use 2 of these linear tension attacks to basically knock him all the way out at the very start of the fight. And then you can use Aurora's tension to like clean up some of the monsters surrounding him. Because she's got a hemisphere that is not big enough to deal with both sides of it, you just have to pick one of the 2 halves to do the damage to.
ここで決めるわ。イガンスラー。
She's also useful backup if you miss one of the attacks. There we go.
なんとかなったみたいね。さあみんな、こっちよ。
Now, I'm not going to keep this save file so I don't get any benefit from picking up the alchemy items, but it means fewer things are going to pop up at the end of the map.
みんなで力を合わせたおかげで。
I'm really pleased that we're already partway through Don's home at the 2-hour mark. It's making pretty good time. Bigger improvement actually than I was expecting for Nera and the better routing. Now this is one of the more frustrating maps because there is a enemy with one of those spellcaster cannons that's attacking your gates. So you kind of have to knock him out while going back and forth between the monster objectives that are spawning in, and there's a lot of gates that are going to come up over the course of this.
さあ、わかったわ。頑張りましょう。サビダレ打ち。
敵の砲撃がバリケード。
人真似の割にはなかなかの威力ね。このままじゃバリケードが持たないよ。わかったわ。
Alright, we got him. The next one's going to be, I think, in the middle. Oh, probably to the west. This map will really send you running around if you don't have a plan for how to get to all of the gates. It's also where zoom is potentially useful to have, just because you can set up the zoom points and then pop into the corners. I believe the one down here is the next one to spawn in. There's one that appears all the way down in that swamp, and it's a really long run around if you don't have Bianca. Toxic Zombie, that was, I think, only the third monster medal I've run into so far. Now you can attack him with a bunch of different characters. I sometimes will use Aurora with her Blizzard attack. It looks like it wouldn't possibly get up there, but it doesn't really check vertical distances, so you can get away with a lot. And the reason for that is just so that you conserve a little bit of Bianca's MP. You can see how much we're using throughout the course of this battle. And that's even with a lot of the critical-based recovery. I should have gotten everything up there, and now we just need to deal with the one in the middle. Yeah, that's actually a pretty good pattern if you have all of the spawn points easily accessible. You can see where zoom would potentially be useful, just kind of cutting out some of those runs back and forth, but with a fast enough character and a good range attack, you can work around not having zoom. And given it's like 4 minutes to do that quest, it probably is not worth it.
完璧な作戦がなくたって勝てるわ私たちならね
Killing those guys just makes the map end a little bit sooner than the fleeing animation would. And those guys back there are a couple of rock bombs that don't move. They're kind of blocking your way if you try to manually run up to where the imp spellcaster is. I don't think they intended for you to be able to knock him out from the bottom. It just works out very nicely that way. Okay, one more map before the boss. And this one is probably my favorite escort quest because the escorts are actually not stupid. They will go running towards the objective without you having to be around as long as you've activated them once. Okay, Grandma should be activated, and with all the monsters dead, I believe she'll start moving as soon as eligible. At the same time, we're going to go and rescue the sister. And it'll actually queue up their conversation so that you can get them started. You can see that she came out of the crouch.
発明品2号今も動いてるんだよ私が毎日手入れをしておばちゃんその話は後でゆっくりね大丈夫お神よってあれれジュリリン
And I don't know why they don't have all the escorts work like this, because it's actually like fun when they work in a reasonable fashion.
ありがとう神様はいはいそういうのはいいからサビだよチところでそっちの人たちってもしかしてよそ者掟的にヤバくないええ
Make sure that you're activated again.
今なら移動できそうねさあこっちよついてきてはいよ今なら移動できそうねさあこっちよついてきて
And I'm waiting for the last two spawns to appear. The first one is going to be in this area where the two are running towards.
サビだよチサビだよチ
And then we get the return of our friend the Green Dragon. He's going to take a little bit to spawn in here, but I think it's kind of a cool touch that they put in the music from Dragon Warrior 1 whenever these green dragons show up.
やれやれどうにかついたよありがとうさ
よし作戦通りだこれなら戦いながら2人同時に守れるな
なるほど理にかなっている
分かったわ
長いだけの作戦じゃなかったってことか
サビだよチサビだよチここの守りも万全というわけではないわみんな気を抜かずにねサビだよチサビだよチ
皆の者最後まで確実に守り抜くのじゃ
じゃあ
The dragons have a weakness on their head and tail. This one's stronger than the first one that we fought as a mini-boss, but still pretty easy to take down. A high-level character and Terry's completely overpowered moves.
もう終わりか当然の結果だ俺に負けはない
Okay, another multi-part boss battle coming up, and by this point in the game, if you're playing through it, you should be kind of used to these. You're going to have two main bosses, as well as a bunch of imps and spellcasters in the back, all trying to attack an objective that you're guarding. I like to pretty much ignore the spellcasters. I'll actually accidentally hit a couple of them with Bianca, but I'm really just going for taking down the two main ones as quickly as possible. Whichever one you kill first, the other one goes into super berserk mode afterwards. So I like to take this guy down to maybe like 2/3, 3/4 health, and then switch over to Demon User here, and I'll get into tension before the end of this, so that... Yeah, that's not good. The reason I want to be intention at the end of it so that I can just tank the super killer machine once it comes down in berserk mode.
独特な姿といい動きといい一筋縄ではいかなそうな相手ですね
これだけの数の武器を同時に扱う
There's the first one.
器用なやつでガス何
みんなで連携して戦えばいい腕の数で負けはしないさ
And that guy gets a lot more difficult if you don't have tension on, just because he will be very frantically running around, and his arrow attacks and other sword swings are going to just knock you backwards. So it's difficult to kind of get in his face. Alright, we can finally kick Isla back out of the party. Gonna bring in Nara again. And I'll keep this party throughout the rest of the game. So here's our return to the World Tree. It's pretty much positioned exactly the same as it was before in terms of being able to knock monsters off and having Bianca just really overpowered with not having to run around, as well as dealing with the flyers. It's a little bit tight of a start in there because you have all of these knights here at the beginning. And this is where the dogger collar comes in handy. Otherwise, those guys would just be blocking. Even Bianca's Rain of Pain shots are treated as normal projectiles for the purposes of shields. So without the relic on, it's very difficult to knock them back and over the edge, but since they spawn up so close to you, if you have dogger collar on, then you can pretty much just push them over in one hit.
魔物の仕業ね。とりあえず片っ端から倒していけばそのうち消えるかも。分かったわ。この辺りにいる魔物を全部ぶっ飛ばせばいいのね。
This map's basically a linear sequence. You got a bunch of different areas you're locked off before you can go on to the next one.
この調子でサクッと終わらせましょう。
So it's a really, really straightforward map overall. You also get a little bit of a guest appearance by Sorrow, who's recruitable later in the game. Right now you can't do anything with him, it's only after you get to the end boss that his quest actually opens up. I'm experimenting a bit to see if you actually have to kill that Tyrannosaur. He will pick one of the two and kill it. It looks like Tyrannosaur is not optional. I was hoping just the Maulkeepers would be enough so that I wouldn't have to wait for this guy to come up or backtrack down here. Oh, actually it is. Neat. So that can potentially save a little bit of time. Rather than having to go back there, I can hang out by where these doors are. And of course, coming up here, it's a trap. So you get ambushed by a whole bunch of monsters.
ここに来て面倒なのが現れたわね。私の本気見せてあげるわ。
本気になるのはいいでゲスが、やりすぎて世界中に穴を開けるんじゃねえでガスよ。
よし、祭壇の前の
That's actually the only map in the World Tree Part 2, so we go right to the boss here.
まあこんなもんか。
And in Japanese, this guy's called Hell Butler, and everybody asks, what is a Hell Butler? Just a weird, funky name that they got for this particular reskin of this monster. It's called Barbatos in the US version, and I don't remember either of those names in earlier Dragon Warrior games, so I'm sure they appeared somewhere. He starts off with a charge, so I'm going to try to get Nera's by-kill off, and then switch over to Terry for the actual damage.
皆さん、わかりましたわ。
了解だ。
This guy's got a couple of nasty attacks. Stop spell is the biggest one of them. Which is that purple field that's showing up there. Okay, there it goes.
やっぱりこういうのも出てきちゃうのね。
And since Terry does most of his damage through special moves, Bite or Stop spell is kind of aggravating for that reason. Now that excuse me, now that I got my tension built up, I can also use that as a way to dodge it. Because while you're in tension, invulnerability lets you basically ignore all status effects. So I don't need his high tension finisher, but I want to have tension on so that he doesn't get stop spelled. Finally, we can go to this mysterious, gigantic, evil volcano we've been seeing on our map the whole time. This is where presumably the final boss is, although, spoiler, it's not the final boss. I'm going to kill Demon at Arms just because I don't want him hanging around Helix and doing a lot of damage early on. Other than that, it's just a straight rush to take out all the Maw Keepers.
倒しても倒しても魔物が湧き出てきおるわ。
このままでは拉致がありませんね。
了解だ。
なんとかして。
It's probably a good place to actually use my first monster
奴が
plane.
増えるのを止めないと。
分かったわ。
He should be very useful for stopping a lot of the small fry, like the zombies coming up there. If I had tension, I could potentially do this map backwards, so normally these are one-way cliffs that you're jumping down. But with tension you get a double jump, and so I could conceivably take like a shortcut going up there, instead of having to run around to the side. I'm not sure how I would get enough tension though for Terry to have it at the beginning.
どっちかっていうと可愛いんじゃ。
いいえ、かっこいいと思いますわ。 緑色の肌とあのほっぺたが。
行くぜ。
How much damage can we do up there?
ホイミスライムたち
I want to use Ares Tension move as a way to avoid having to do as many shots with Bianca.
ジゴスパーク。
Okay, so about 2,000.
あと一つね。よーし張り切っていくわよ。サンダル打ち最後まで戦い抜くわ。サンダル打ちサンダル打ちサンダル打ちサンダル打ちサンダル打ちサンダル打ち
King Cure Slam doesn't want to go the right way. Everybody else is going down, which is nice because I can catch up to them on the lower slopes. Let's take the spot here. Not ideal, but I can hit him even though it's a gigantic wall and vertical height difference.
サンダル打ちサンダル打ちはー
And being able to take out the demon at arms there without having to wait for them to walk all the way around does save quite a lot of time.
力を合わせたおかげで
Okay, there are 2 Killer Monsters quests. The first one I think is kind of interesting. It's like a mini-boss gauntlet where you fight a bunch of bosses and mini-bosses that you've seen in previous maps. Second one's a little bit more obnoxious, and you'll see why once we get there.
了解だ。
お役に立ちますわ。
嫌な予感が的中したでガス。こいつは強敵でゲスね。
相手がどんな奴だろうと関係ない。さっさと倒して先に進むぞ。了解だ。やりましたね。さあ皆さん先に進みましょう。
So first up is Marquis de Lion, which was the boss of the tower. Then we get Dark Golem Part 2. This one's a lot easier to hit off because he is just completely surrounded by lava on all sides.
それだけ敵も本気ということかしら。魔物がひるんだわ。攻撃のチャンスよ。よーし、今のうちにぶっ飛ばしてやりましょう。
もう終わり。はやぶさ切り。
危ない。これも敵の仕掛けた罠なのかしら。
触ったら大やけどですわ。皆さん気をつけて。
Not quite sure what everybody's so excited for. Enemies are already dead.
私たちにかかればこのくらいちょろいもんよね。
行くぜ。
Okay, there's 2 killer machines back here. We want to have tension for the back one, definitely. Because if you have tension, it can basically tank his attacks. He doesn't have a lot of HP, so it goes down really fast.
俺の完璧
Now
な
this is a weakened version of Type G0. When you fight them in the, basically the open maps, they're much tougher. Same thing with Belial and Pazuzu, who's going to be showing up in a couple of maps here. For some reason they have like a very weakened version of them in the main story quest.
あと一息だよ。みんな頑張れ。
せてやるぜ。地獄スパーク。はやぶさ切り。
That was the fun one of the two.
私の勝ちだ。
もっと楽しめる相手はいないのか。
This next one starts off with a whole bunch of basically jumping puzzles, and the AI is kind of dumb and likes to run off the side, so it's a little bit of a scramble to stay in a good position for the rest of the map. And you can save maybe like 20 or 30 seconds if you avoid falling into the pit. I have to remember it's only 2 to Bianca instead of my normal 3. Oh, and then I botched the very first jump. Well played. So when you're down here, it's a little bit slower because you have to run around the pillars, and it's not quite a straight shot up to the Mall Keepers. We go up to the ramp on the east side, which is how we can get back up to the top. We're hitting the Mall Keeper down the middle there. You can see him on the map, right near where everybody else is running towards. And although it's faster to kill him if you're down there, I'm staying up here with Bianca so that I can go to the next gatekeeper as well. This one's really tucked in the back. It's hard to hit him from the other side.
これほど多くの魔物を操るとは。エルフの道、奴の力は底知れん。
ええ、この世界を救うために何としても倒さねばならない相手です。サビラヨチ、サビラヨチ、サビラヨチ。
There's some good critical hits. There's the Mall Keeper down. These guys in the back are pretty easy for Terry. A lot faster to use him than it is for Bianca to take all those shots at him. By kill does help quite a bit in terms of cutting down some of the bigger guys with Rain of Pain, but it's still faster to use Terry for the most part. I want to end up here because this is also where the door is to end the stage. Okay, now Velasco. He's been portrayed as the big bad guy for this game. And like a lot of Dragon Quest games, it turns out there is somebody behind pulling all the strings. So we're going to fight him, and then we're going to kind of get the reveal for Shadroth, who is the Dark Dragon of Night. And for the first half of the fight, Velasco is just invulnerable, so you're waiting for him to do a bunch of cutscenes, spawn out a Belial and Pazuzu, kill them, and then eventually you'll be able to actually fight him.
了解だ。
So we're just gonna hang out here. Should probably make sure that these guys don't run up there and die since we don't have anybody like Jessica to kill them.
攻撃が効かない。
So we'll see if we can pull them all the way to the back
俺
here.
の力なのか。
わかりましたわ。
無駄なことよ。我が闇の力の前ではいかなる攻撃もゴミ当然。己の無力さを思い知るがいい。
了解だ。
Alright, presumably we're gonna do you first and see if Belial actually takes any damage from that barrier I just put up with there.
これでは物足りない。もう少し楽し
Yeah, it looks like she recast immediately. The CPU is kind of dumb in being able to make tactical use of those things. Just like in terms of walls, it's not able to realize that it's better to keep them in place rather than to recast.
たかが魔物一匹倒したぐらいで随分な喜びようだな。せいぜい私を本気にさせてみるがいい。
余裕ぶっちゃって感じ悪い。もう一匹もちゃっちゃと片付けるわよ。
わかったわ。
よし、
了解
どう？これが私たちの絆の力よ。
だ。了解だ。
There he goes. Finally, we can hit him. And I wanted to save Terry's tension, but I accidentally activated it early. Having tension on basically means I can ignore what he's doing for all these attacks and just wail away at him.
光の力で必ず止めてみせる。お前のくだらない企みをな。
くだらないだと愚か者が。
There we go. We'll have tension for the second half.
調停者として許すわけにはいかないわ。
調停者まで出張ってきたか。
Alright, let's see if we can switch away before Terry does the finisher. Oops. Don't have my splits yet. Still have to do the second part of the boss, because this was evidently a load-bearing main villain. So now this whole island is crumbling.
了解だ。
片っ端からやっつけていくわよ。
Go on the other side of this, and then cut over. Bianca's actually a little bit faster because I only have one fully crafted meteorite armband. We have to do a couple of DPS checks on bomb molders. So I need basically either Terry or Aurora to be the one that's doing the run. And Bianca's just too slow with Rain of Pain to take these guys.
魔物がお出ましたぜ。
もう急いでるのに。パパっていっぺんにやっつけちゃいましょう。
落石でガス。
よーし、任せて。私が蹴り飛ばしてあげるわ。
全部蹴り飛ばしていたらキリがないぞ。うまく避けつつ先に進むんだ。はやぶさ切り。
Okay, looks like still 2 hits even with By-Kill on. Maybe By-Kill expired before I got that.
揺れが激しくなっているような。
Saw Nera cast it, but I wasn't sure if it was still on when I got to the boulders.
残念ながら気のせいじゃないわ。ぐずぐずしてると島と一緒にバラバラよ。
Tyrannosaurus is kind of annoying. Let's see if we can avoid him. He usually doesn't get you with the roar, but his spitting flip jump will be an easy way to kind of knock you back and just kind of slow you up.
今にも島が沈んでしまいそう。
全
絶体絶命ってやつでゲスね。とにかくバトシへ目指して急ぎでガスよ。
みんなバトシエはもうすぐよ。急ぎましょう。
よーし。
One more set to go. This one has a demon user standing right outside, and it's kind of annoying because he will sometimes knock you out of bounds. Really inconvenient. So I'm going to put myself in attention just to avoid the knock around. If you get out of bounds, then it can be difficult to still do damage.
当然の結果だ。俺に負けはない。了解だ。さっさと終わらせるぞ。
And King Hydra here works a little bit like the Zongo from Legend of Zelda. He'll basically breathe in a bunch of air here, and if you have bomb bolter monster coins, then you can use it to basically blow him up. Now it's kind of random when he does the breath relative to the monster coins coming out, so that was lucky that he did the bombs first. Sometimes he'll do like 2 or 3 rounds before he gets to it, and so it's not really worth it.
今のはがっつり効いたみたいでゲスね。
これよ。この方法しかないわ。どんどんぶつけてやりましょう。
攻撃が効いてるみたいですよ。
See if we can take him down before he does a second breath. I don't think it's worth running over to get the bomb coin at this point. He's really, really low.
地獄スパーク。
この調子でいけば島が沈む前になんとかやっつけられそうでガス。
Yeah, probably about the same amount of time. I'll have to see where I lost time on that segment other than falling down in the pit.
Yep.
And with that, we return to Arba, which is where we started the game. In fact, we return to the very same map we had for our tutorial at the beginning. Of course, now it's populated with much more difficult monsters than it was the first time. And coming up here we have another return of our introductory treasure chest, except this time instead of a mini medal, it is the really, really high-end instant death mimic.
知りたい？まず腐った死体の爪を煮詰めて。さあ、ちゃっちゃと敵を倒すわよ。みんな頑張りましょう。あの時は私たち何も知らなかったわね。この世界のこと
I love how much they're reminiscing when it's been less than 3 hours since we were here last.
そうだな。 だが今は全部知ってる。世界のために俺たちがすべきこともな。
Guessing they wrote the dialogue for slightly longer playthroughs of the game. Alright, 3 more maps to go before the final boss, although they are very, very long maps. You kind of get used to maps that are like, 3 to 5 minutes, and then they start pulling out like 10 or 15 minute ones when you get to the late game. Just with lots and lots of spawn points and objectives and timers that go off. So this will be a couple of rounds. We need to take all the monsters down and try not to run into any of these low-end monster coins. Only a couple more left. We actually can collect some of the ones on the last map or two, just because I'll be using them for guarding the gates. Alright, 2 of them down. We need to get the one in the east, and then we have to kill off all the monsters before the second set of gates is going to spawn in. So I'll just take a pause here to turn back towards the cellar so that I can clear off the ones that have gathered there. That's not getting a lot of hits. Okay, that should be all of them. Let's take out the ones here as well, so I don't have to chase them up the stairs. Okay, there's going to be 2 guys that spawn in gates both here as well as up on the platform below us, so I want to try to lure the Barbatos down here to avoid getting out of position. He unfortunately does not want to cooperate. Like, he's supposed to stay down all the way at the bottom there.
行くぜ。
なんだか息苦しいわ。大気が重くよどんでいるみたい。闇竜が近づいてきているせいね。エクサーゼ。
Let's see if we can still take him down before they spawn anything big in. I should be able to hit the one at the bottom with Terry's tension attack and deal about half damage to him before jumping down. It's really blind because you have no idea where he's standing beneath you. And Terry's line attack is fairly tight in terms of missing anything that's off angle there. That looks like we got him though. Alright, now we just need to get around to the side and we can take out the last guy. Well, looks like we have to get a demon at arms out before we close the gate. There we go.
じゃあな。
Okay guys, pay attention to me and let's try to keep clumped together. You have to actually do a lot of micro switching between characters just to kind of keep them bunched in the right place, sort of be very tactical using things like Bianca's Reign of Pain in these later maps, where she can't do enough damage to take out the big monsters, but is really, really useful for mopping up things like the skeletons or the zombies.
もっと楽しめる相手はいないのか?
Okay, 2 more maps to go. This one, well, this is probably the most annoying escort quest of the entire game because there's this one guy at the end that will drag you to every single spot on this gigantic map. The last one's a pretty straightforward romp where you can go and do a lot of carnage. It's a pretty fun one. We just have to get through this one first. Granny's our first escort that we need to save. Now kill out the monsters along the way because otherwise she's going to stop and be scared of all of them running back. Which is weird because she can pretty much hold her own with a frying pan against like these end-level monsters for quite a long time. So you think she could just like run by him and get to safety? Come on, there we go.
大丈夫か? 俺たちが城まで護衛しよう。
助けに来てくれたんだね。ありがたや、ありがたや。
And Granny moves kind of slow, so we have to really stutter step, especially with Bianca having an upgraded meteorite armband on. Otherwise, you pretty quickly get out of her range. I want to see if there's some way to kill this Maw Keeper before he can get the second Mustafa in there, but I haven't been able to do it so far. Alright, let's trigger Thug now. He's going to be behind these gates. You can't actually get in here until after his cutscene sequence plays.
一人で先に逃げやがって。
了解だ。
There's a couple little mini checkpoints here. You have to go through the gates, activate the Thug, and then this little sequence will pop open where you can take out Super Killer Machine. And he's got the gate that is locking the Thug cell closed. Or the key that's locking the Thug cell closed. You really just have to fight the one monster, but there's nothing else you can do until the Thug starts moving, so you can kill everything else while waiting.
まったくずうずうしいやつでげすね。
分かったわ。
わかりましたわ。
了解だ。
Wow, what an annoying pack of gargoyles. Not only do we get a ton of knockback, but also stop spelled. Hey, Insult, welcome in. Alright, when we finally get Thug up here, we have another one of those Maw Keepers. I'll use tension for this set because otherwise you'll probably get stunned by all these Tyrannosaurs around you. See if we can put this finisher move to use. He will hit some things behind him, so when he does this backswing here, like a little bit of a circle in the rear is also going to take damage like all those zombies.
助かったぜ。もう二度と風呂には近づかねえよ。
And now, super annoying guy. This is the one that has been separated from his wife, and so he'll want to take you all around the map looking for her. You might guess he goes to every wrong location, and we have to fight monsters in each one of those.
助けてください。扉の前に魔物がいて出られないんです。はやぶさ切り。真空切り。待ってろ。今片付ける。
Let's see if we can finish off Barbatos without needing to use... Nope, he decided to stun, so we did not get him before our Falcon Slash wore off. We're just building up everybody's tension in the meantime while we're waiting for cutscenes to advance. We could potentially use them for some of the boss groups. It's pretty much optional at this point for everybody but Bianca and Terry. I like having it on Nair and Aurora though, just because they have hemisphere-shaped finisher moves, so useful for clearing out things that are just swarming around you.
よろしいのですか。ありがとうございます。
了解だ。
妻とはぐれたのはこっちの方です。僕についてきてください。
分かったわ。分かりましたわ。バイキルト。分かったわ。
了解だ。
Alright, let's start the romp. Have to move a little bit slowly with Terry. He's only got the initial meteorite armband on, but still enough to outpace Traveler guy here. This is way earlier than I wanted to activate the tension. There's a group right here that it's going to be used against. And it was wasted.
僕だよ。兵隊おいで。
So tension would have been nice there so that I wouldn't be stunned by their roar, but let's see if we can deal with them. Come on. Now for this next set, it looks like he's going to drag you through a whole bunch of little groups here, but it turns out these are all skippable. And it's not until he gets around the corner that it actually turns into a required killing area.
了解だ。
Another good spot for tension with the Barbatos that has the ability to give you a stop spell. Almost to where he's going to activate. There we go.
この辺りなのですが。おい、お前いないのかい。行くぜ。終わりだ。
And it recommends you use those spellcaster weapons to take a bound, but Terry's a really, really good physical killing machine. Alright, let's see what's left. Susan Beyond kind of mop some of them up so that we do rush run it. And so he continues his search for his wife, still not knowing where she is. Getting closer though. Just glad he ignores most of these smaller monsters so that we don't have to kill him along the way. Now Gray does not have a dog of color on, I believe. Which means we're going to have to leave the Mallkeeper up to Bianca. I did a little bit of damage to the Tyrannosaurus so that you have fewer shots for them. And then Bianca will take care of the rest. Alright, and finally he runs down here, which is getting to where his wife is. Oh, come on, spawn in. There we go.
妻が魔物に襲われています。
So you notice we just ran around the corner. She was not there at all. And then suddenly she pops in. And all this could have been simply avoided by just telling him that his wife was dead, and she probably would have been given enough patience. Couple more battles along the way, but they're mostly going to be similar types of setups that we've seen before with like Musivers and other Tyrannosaurs spawning in. I just threw out a bunch of junk to distract the monsters while we are wailing on them with terror. Try to switch away before you did the finisher move. If you're not actually active on the character, then the finisher move will just fizzle out. So you don't need the attack. Like here, I think we've killed everybody already. You could save the animation time if you switch your way quick enough.
皆さん、本当にありがとうございました。このご恩は一生忘れません。
わかりましたわ。
Alright, one more map.
私、お役に立てたでしょうか。
I think we're making good time in Arbus so far. This next map is either the longest or second longest after that escort quest that we just finished. And this is the one which I kind of enjoy. It's an enormous number of monsters just spawning everywhere, and you having to track them down before they will kill your objective off. Spy kill makes a ton of difference here so that you just have fewer shots. Like it's already cleared out all the background people. And then I want to pick up the monster coins from all these big ones that spawn so that I can leave them as gate guardians. Now, randomly, you'll either have a completely full set of monsters or be like one short. So picking up a little bit of these smaller skeletons just in case to fill it out. I'm not sure if they're actually going to make a difference in terms of guarding my gates, but I don't think I'll have a completely full set unless I get every single one of the big monster drops. King Killer Slime's a great one. He'll be doing a lot of healing for my monsters. There's very few things that'll actually heal your monster coins once you've deployed them. Some of the monsters, like the King Killer Slime, will, and if you pick up more than a full bar was worth, like you got a monster that is already in your bar, but your bar is completely full, then it will give you a little bit of HP recovery to all of your monsters.
わかりましたわ。
了解だ。頼むぞ。行け。
わかったわ。サビラレンチ。
Okay, first part done. Now for the fun bit. It's a little bit of a timer, I think around 3.5 minutes. It'll actually activate the second part of this quest.
わかりました。
So use the time in here to just fill up our tension gauges. And there's going to be a whole bunch of gates that spawn over this entire map, and they're all going to just start pumping out big and little monsters. So that's why I left all those guardians by my castle gates to deal with the stragglers that are going to get by my defenses. Alright, one down. It's a little bit hard to visually pick out where they are. You just eventually learn what the pathing is like. Because this one looks like he's on the top rather than having to come around to this back one just because he's poked all the way to the corner. And you want to kill some of these small ones along the way because eventually you're going to have to wipe out the whole map. And they will wander towards your gates so that you don't have to do as much clumping, but it helps a little bit to have taken care of them. It also lets you get some more of your big monster refills. Like I picked up that Tyrannosaurus. Since I didn't have any space left in my inventory, thanks to those skeletons being there, that caused my other monsters to get refilled. You are just standing there like an idiot. There we go.
了解だ。
行くぜ
Let's see how many tensions we can get out of this. Gonna try to get to the one all the way in the back before this runs out.
はやぶさ切り見せてやるぜ血のスパーク
And for this one map alone, it might actually be worth it to put the fully upgraded Meteor Armband on Terry, because he does so much of the running here, but I have it on Bianca, and I'll be switching off those two anyway. Alright, time for Southeast, and our Gate Guardians are starting to fall, which is very, very scary. I'd prefer not to have to take a trip back there, but it's looking like it's maybe a little bit too close. But with this pattern, it's not too bad, because I need to get the two down Main Street anyway.
Dynasty 攻めてきても無駄よ。城には絶対入れないんだから。
そうね、人がいてこそのお城だもの。何が何でも守り抜くわ。
分かったわ。分かったわ。はやぶさ切り。
分かったわ。
This is probably the only map where these doors are actually open and lead somewhere. Maps do have very small variations that you'll sometimes come across, like these doors will be open and closed, there'll be different areas that are present here. And I don't think that there is one like super map that has every single thing open. Alright, we are almost out. Got one more Maw Keeper, and... Oh, come on, Bianca, you can get over that rail. That sound was the metal slime running away. Metal slimes work like a lot of other Dragon Warrior games where they are super high evasive, so it's difficult to kill them. But if you do, you get a really big XP reward. Okay. There's a couple of monsters there, but we killed enough things to trigger in the last Mallkeeper. And here is our friend the dragon. This time he's been upgraded. This is the red dragon. In Dragon Warrior 1, the red dragon, at least in the NES version, was pretty much the most fearsome monster because he had not only a ton of damage output, but also the sleep spell, so he could easily wipe out you from full health just by knocking you into sleep and then preventing you from healing as a result. But the remakes for Dragon Warrior 1, they replaced his sleep spell with stop spell, and since you very rarely actually are casting spells in combat in the first game, made it kind of a joke, so it became the monster that is pretty much the best XP-wise that you can get, so the one that you want to farm. Alright, now to the finale. Shamdar, or Shadroth as you call it in English, is a two-part boss. The first part he's completely invulnerable, so it's just like a long, glorious cutscene. And then we get to do the fun dance with him. There are some AI skips that you can do by putting him into stun at certain trigger points on his health, and we'll try to get both of them. It's a fairly significant chunk of time, like a minute for each one that we get.
なんというまがまがしき姿よ。これは闇竜シャムダか。
ホミロン危ないわ。後ろに下がってなさい。
僕もう逃げないって決めたんだ。世界を元に戻すために一緒に頑張るよ。
ホミロン、お前も随分強くなったな。よし、行くぞ。はぐれるなよ。
It's the only spot where I can take a break and refill my drink, which is not all that useful considering it comes at the very, very end of the run. Yeah, thanks very much, Insult. Thanks for stopping by and hope to see you again.
闇竜、他の魔物とは桁違いの力ですね。
So there's nothing I can usefully do here because it'll wipe out all of the status effects when it goes to the second part here. So building up tension doesn't help. Can't do damage to him.
どうしよう。こいつを止めるにはどうしたら。
落ち着け。奴も無敵じゃないはずだ。
分かってるわよ。でも早くしないと城のみんなが。
Alright, time for the real fight now. So he's got one nasty move, which is the black bands. It's basically instant death unless you switch characters. Other than that, I'm mostly hoping that he does not hop around like an idiot. And if we get it right, it's probably like a 2-minute battle. There's black bands.
伝説の闇竜シャムダと戦うだなんてさすがに予想はしてなかったけど最後までとことん付き合わせて調停者としてじゃなく仲間として終わってきたらまさかこんなすごい相手が戦うことになるなんて
Okay, we're gonna go into tension here. I don't want to use my tension yet.
私ってとってもラッキーね。やっつけてお父様に自慢してやるわ。
Gonna get him down a little bit farther, and then we're gonna start putting him into stun lock. Oh no, he got away.
分かったわ。
I was like one swing off. This is where I wanted to have him in stun lock so he wouldn't do this stupid sequence. There's nothing you can do to damage him. You were just waiting for a minute and 20-second cutscene to play out now. That's kind of disappointing.
弱ったとはいえまだこれほどの力が何かもう一押しあれば皆さんご無事ですか
この通信バトシエだわ。よかった、最終調整が間に合ったのね。
これより我々も一緒に戦います。世界に平和を取り戻しましょう。
私たちも応援してます。どうか闇竜を倒し世界を守ってください。
我が一族も皆で祈りを捧げています。あなた方の勝利を願って。
We're gonna have Terry ready to go into tension as soon as he comes back down.
私も乗せてもらったわよ。この戦いの結末を見届けるためにね。届いたわ。
There we go.
声が世界を守るんだっていう強い思いが。
ここまで来たら俺たちが取るべき作戦は
Alright, let's try to get this part right.
よく聞けよ。
It's really, really tight on the timing for knocking him back down, so you basically need to fill up your tension before he's able to get out of stun.
血のスパーク。
分かってるわよ。今回はいつもみたいな長いやつじゃないんでしょ。
And only Terry is able to do this because of the way that his
私たち絶対
Falcon attack and Tornado interact. You see Shadowrust standing up. If he's able to stand up, then he can run off and do another one of those cutscene sequences. But if you keep knocking him down, then his AI never gets to go. There we go. So still sub 325. We could probably knock another